I remember the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind of day where the clouds hang low and everything feels heavier than usual. I had just come home from school and thrown my bag onto the floor like I always did. My mom was in the kitchen, humming a song I didn't recognize. Nothing felt different until I saw the letter on the table. It had my name on it. I picked it up casually, thinking it was one of those scholarship offers or maybe another pointless school newsletter. But when I opened it, I felt my hands start to shake. It was from the Ministry of Education. I had been accepted into an international student exchange program, full scholarship, 1 year abroad, top university, flights, housing, meals, all paid. It was everything I had worked for, everything my parents had hoped for, everything I had dreamed of. But instead of feeling joy, I felt something cold grip my chest. I sat down slowly, reading the letter again and again. My mom turned around and saw the expression on my face. "What is it, baby?" she asked. I couldn't answer. Because the truth was, while everyone saw this opportunity as a dream come true, for me, it was a nightmare. Ever since I was a kid, my dad talked about education like it was salvation. We didn't have much money, but he always said, "Knowledge is your way out." I believed him. I studied hard, stayed away from trouble, and tried to be the perfect son. But there were things my dad didn't know. Like how my younger sister, Anna, had been having seizures again. Or that my mom hadn't gone to her own doctor's appointments in weeks because she couldn't afford the bus fare. Or that I had started skipping lunch some days at school just to make sure Anna had enough. Going abroad meant leaving them behind. For a whole year. No support. No help. Just Mom and Anna trying to survive on their own, and my dad working double shifts in another city just to keep the lights on. How could I leave? I stared at the letter until the words blurred. It was supposed to be good news. I was supposed to be happy. But all I felt was guilt. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every scenario in my head. What would happen if I went? Would my mom break down? Would Anna be okay if she had another episode and I wasn't there to help? I tried to convince myself that maybe this was our way out. Maybe I could go, get connections, make something of myself, then come back and save us all. But that's the kind of thinking that works in movies. In real life, people fall apart when you're gone. The next day at school, everyone was talking about final exams. They were only a month away. Our results would be used to place us in university programs, or, in my case, confirm eligibility for the exchange. I felt like I was walking through fog. My best friend, Tariq, slapped me on the back and grinned. "Heard the news, bro? You're going international, huh? Big man." I forced a smile. "Yeah, something like that." He didn't notice the way my shoulders sagged. No one did. Everyone saw what they wanted to see, a poor kid about to escape poverty. A success story in the making. But none of them saw the cost. When I got home, my mom had already told my dad. He called that night from the factory break room. "I'm so proud of you, son," he said, his voice tired but full of pride. "I knew you could do it. You've always been the smartest in the family." I didn't know what to say. "Your mom says you're acting strange. You okay?" "Yeah, just overwhelmed," I lied. "Don't overthink it. Just focus on your finals. We'll handle things here." Handle things here? They could barely handle things with me. How could they survive without me? That night, I sat with Anna while she colored. She was only 9, but already so used to hospitals and tests. Her innocence broke my heart. She looked up at me and asked, "Are you really going to another country?" I didn't answer. I just hugged her. The next morning, I made my decision. It wasn't easy, but it was clear. I was going to fail my exams. Not because I wasn't capable. Not because I didn't care. But because I couldn't leave. I couldn't be selfish. And yes, maybe it was stupid. Maybe I was throwing away everything my family had worked for. But to me, success wasn't a plane ticket or a foreign degree. Success was making sure Anna had someone to hold her hand during her next seizure. Success was making sure my mom didn't cry herself to sleep alone. Success was choosing love over ambition. I knew I'd have to lie. To everyone. To my teachers, to my parents, to my friends. They'd never understand. They'd think I gave up, or worse, that I wasn't smart enough. But I knew the truth. And for now, that had to be enough. Failing on purpose is harder than it sounds. When you've spent your entire life being the smart one, people notice when you start slipping. Teachers raise eyebrows. Classmates whisper. Parents ask questions. And worst of all, you start questioning yourself. The first test I sabotaged was biology. We had a pop quiz. 10 questions. I answered the first 5 correctly, then filled the rest with nonsense. I even spelled mitochondria wrong on purpose. My teacher, Ms. Lambert, stared at my paper longer than usual when she handed it back. "Are you okay?" she asked, lowering her voice. "Just tired," I said with a shrug. She didn't believe me. But she didn't push. Not yet. A week later, our math teacher, Mr. Clark, announced a major exam that would count for 30% of our final grade. I knew what I had to do. That morning, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and rehearsed my plan. Answer a few questions to make it look real. Leave the hard ones blank. Write messy. Maybe even pretend I ran out of time. But when I sat down with the paper in front of me, something inside twisted. I had studied these formulas. I knew every equation by heart. My pencil hovered over the page, and for a moment I forgot why I was doing this. Then I thought of Anna. Of her tiny hands gripping mine during seizures. Of Mom staying up all night washing clothes by hand to save electricity. Of Dad missing birthdays because he couldn't get time off work. I put the pencil down. And I failed. The grades came in 2 days later. I had scored 42%. The room buzzed with whispers. I heard my name several times, always followed by the same shocked tone. Tarek stopped me after class. "Bro, what happened? You bombed that test." I shrugged. "Guess I choked." "No way. You're the one who helps me study." I forced a laugh and changed the subject. But the rumors started. At home, things were getting harder to hide. My mom was still glowing from the exchange letter, telling everyone in the neighborhood that her son was going abroad. She even started sewing a new jacket for me, just in case it's cold over there. Each stitch felt like a needle in my own skin. I wanted to scream the truth. To tell her, "I'm not going. I can't leave you and Anna, but I didn't have the courage." Not yet. My dad called again that weekend. "You keeping up with school?" he asked. "Yeah. Just a few hard tests," I lied. "Don't let it shake you. I know pressure gets to people, but you've always handled it well." That hurt the most. The belief. The pride. I was letting them believe in something I was secretly destroying. Then came the meeting with the school counselor. Apparently, 2 teachers had raised concerns about my sudden decline. I was pulled into her office during lunch. "Take a seat, Jason," she said, folding her hands. "We've noticed some changes." "I've just been stressed," I answered quickly. She didn't nod. She didn't speak. She just stared, waiting for me to keep talking. And I cracked. "Not fully. Not everything. But enough. My sister's been sick again. Things at home, not easy." She nodded slowly. "Do your parents know how much this is affecting you?" I shook my head. She sighed and said something that stuck with me. "Sometimes being the strong one doesn't mean doing everything alone." But that wasn't an option for me. I didn't have the luxury of weakness. That night, Anna had another seizure. It was short and we handled it, but afterward she looked at me and said, "Don't go away." I blinked, startled. "What?" "I heard Mom talking on the phone. She said you'll be in another country. But I don't want you to go." I hugged her tight. "I'm not going anywhere." And in that moment, I knew there was no going back. Final exams were approaching fast. I began crafting my downfall like a scientist. Calculated mistakes. Occasional right answers. Just enough to make it believable. But Ms. Lambert wasn't buying it. After class one day, she stopped me. "You're failing, Jason. But I know you're not failing because you don't understand the material." I stayed silent. She leaned in. "If something's going on, tell me. We can help." But I couldn't risk it. So I lied. "I'm just burned out," I said. "I'll try harder next time." She didn't believe me. My final English paper was the hardest one to fake. We had to write about the most important decision you've ever made. Arnie, right? I stared at the blank page for an hour. Then I wrote a story, completely fictional, of course, about a boy who chose his family over his dreams. My teacher gave me a B. But she wrote one comment that made my heart race. Sometimes, fiction is more honest than truth. I wondered if she knew. By the end of the semester, my GPA had dropped significantly. Too low for the scholarship. Too low for the exchange. My parents received an official letter saying I was no longer eligible due to academic performance. My mom cried. My dad didn't speak to me for 2 days. And me? I just sat there, feeling like I had stabbed my own future in the heart. But Anna came into my room that night with a smile and whispered, "You stayed. And that made it worth it." Almost. I thought the worst part would be losing the scholarship. But I was wrong. The worst part was everything that came after. My dad stopped calling. Not out of anger. Not even disappointment. Just silence. As if he didn't know what to say. As if his pride had turned into confusion. This was the son he believed in. The boy who stayed up late studying under a dim light bulb. The one he used to say would make it out. And now that boy had thrown away the one ticket that could have changed everything. Or so he thought. My mom was more vocal. But not in the way I expected. She didn't yell. She didn't cry, at least, not in front of me. Instead, she started treating me differently. She'd look at me for a second too long before speaking, like trying to figure out who I really was. Like maybe I wasn't the son she thought she raised. She stopped telling people about my scholarship. Stopped asking how school was. Stopped smiling at random moments. The silence between us grew louder than any words could. At school, things were worse. Tariq barely talked to me anymore. "Guess I was wrong about you," he muttered one day when I passed him in the hallway. I wanted to grab him by the shoulders and scream, "You don't know what I gave up." But I didn't. Because how could I explain? How do you tell someone that failure was your sacrifice? That staying behind wasn't weakness, it was love? People started calling me lazy, unmotivated, burned out. I let them. Better that than the truth. I tried to distract myself. I picked up a part-time job at a nearby cafe to help my mom with groceries. I started walking Anna to school every morning. I helped neighbors fix their fences, clean their yards, carry groceries up the stairs. But nothing filled the void. Everywhere I went, I saw the version of myself that could have been. Posters at the bus stop showed universities with students smiling, boarding planes, living their best lives. I'd look at them and think, that should have been me. And then I'd feel sick for even thinking it. One night, Anna came into my room with a drawing. It was me, holding her hand, both of us smiling under a sun that had too many rays. "I drew this in class," she said. "We had to draw someone we love the most." My throat tightened. "I love you too, monkey," I whispered. She smiled and ran back to her room. That picture stayed taped to my wall. Every time I doubted myself, I looked at it and reminded myself why I stayed. But love doesn't pay bills. And love doesn't give you a career. 3 months passed. My old classmates started getting acceptance letters from universities. Tariq got into a top tech program. Another friend was going abroad to study architecture. Social media was filled with posts about new chapters, new adventures, and dreams coming true. And me? I was still making coffee and wiping tables after school. One of the customers, an older man with sharp eyes and a kind smile, used to come in every week. Always ordered the same thing: black coffee, no sugar, no cream. One day he asked, "You're not in school?" "Graduated last semester," I lied. "You're smart. I can tell," he said. "Ever thought about writing?" That caught me off guard. "Writing?" He nodded. "You talk like someone who has something to say." I didn't know what to respond. That night, I pulled out my old notebook. The one I used to keep during English class. Pages filled with random thoughts, short poems, story ideas. I flipped through it slowly, like going through memories of a different life. And then I started writing again. Just a paragraph. Then another. A scene. a character, a feeling. It didn't matter what. It just poured out of me. And for the first time in months, I felt something other than guilt. I felt alive. Writing became my escape. After work, after dinner, after making sure Anna was asleep, I'd stay up, scribbling in the dark. Stories about choices, pain, love, and sacrifice. I wrote about boys who left, boys who stayed, mothers who broke, fathers who disappeared, sisters who smiled even through sickness. It was therapy. It was truth. One day, the man from the cafe came in again. I handed him his coffee, and before he left, he said, "If you ever want to share something you wrote, I'd be happy to read it." I stared at him. He handed me a business card. It had the logo of a small local magazine on it. Submissions open monthly. That night, I printed one of my stories. It was the first time I'd shared anything I'd written with anyone outside of school. I didn't expect anything. But 2 weeks later, I got an email. "We loved your story. It's powerful, raw, and honest. We'd like to publish it in our next issue." I read it 5 times to make sure it was real. Then I cried. Not because I got published, but because for the first time since I made that choice, the choice to fail, to stay, to let everyone down, something finally told me I had done the right thing. Of course, that didn't solve everything. My family still struggled. My mom still avoided eye contact when people asked about my future. My dad still sounded distant on the phone. But now I had something. A spark. A way to tell my story. A path that didn't involve a plane ticket or a scholarship. A path that started right here. At home. With nothing but paper, ink, and a truth too big to hide. The story changed everything. It wasn't a bestseller. It didn't go viral. But it reached the right people. And that was enough. The day it was published in the local magazine, I went to the corner store, bought 3 copies, and sat on the front step flipping through the pages until I saw it. My name. In print. Jason Malik. Beneath it, the title, *, The Boy Who Stayed. When I brought it home, my mom looked at it without saying a word. Then she read the first page. Then the second. And by the end of the third, she had tears in her eyes. "You wrote this?" she whispered. I nodded. She hugged me, tighter than she had in months. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't know this is what you were carrying." And just like that, the silence between us broke. A few days later, the magazine editor emailed again. "Would you be interested in contributing regularly? We have a column available for young voices." A columnist? I said yes before I could talk myself out of it. And just like that, I had something I hadn't felt in a long time. Direction. The money wasn't much. But the recognition? The validation? That was priceless. People started reaching out. Teachers. Neighbors. Even a few old classmates. "Did you really write that? That story made me cry. You should write a book." For once, people weren't talking about my failure. They were talking about my words. Even Tarek messaged me. "Hey man, I read your story. I didn't know what you were going through. I'm sorry for judging you." It wasn't much, but it was enough. We started talking again. Not like before, but better. Realer. Deeper. Sometimes losing people shows you who they truly are. Sometimes they come back. Wiser. Things at home improved too, slowly in little ways. Anna's medication was finally covered by a local health program my mom applied for. I helped her fill out the paperwork. My part-time job hours were cut, but I made up the difference by freelancing small articles for other blogs and student sites. I even taught Anna how to write short poems. She'd sit next to me with her pink notebook, scribbling verses about the moon, or her favorite cartoon, or how much she loved our cat, Whiskers. Our living room became our writing room. Then one day, something crazy happened. An editor from a larger publication, one based in the capital, emailed me. She had read my story through a repost on social media. "Your writing has a quiet power," she said. "We're launching a mentorship program for young authors. We'd like you to apply." I almost deleted the email. Why would they choose me? But Anna made a face when I told her. "Don't be silly," she said. You have to try. So I applied. 3 weeks later, I was in. It was virtual, weekly sessions with professional writers, editors, and publishers. Masterclasses on storytelling, structure, emotion, and even pitching manuscripts. They sent me books to study, gave me deadlines, pushed me harder than any school assignment ever had. And I loved every minute of it. For the first time, I saw writing not just as therapy, but as a possible future. A career. A calling. One afternoon, during a mentorship Zoom session, the guest speaker was a famous novelist I had admired for years. She read the first paragraph of The Boy Who Stayed out loud. Then she looked at the camera and said, "Whoever wrote this, you have a voice people need to hear." I couldn't breathe. My mentor smiled. That would be Jason. He's with us today. The novelist looked at me and said, "Keep going. Please." I didn't cry during the call. But after? I cried hard. Around that time, my dad came home for a weekend visit. We hadn't really talked since the scholarship rejection. At dinner, Mom handed him the magazine. He flipped through it slowly, reading my story in silence. When he finished, he looked at me and said, "I thought you failed. I didn't realize you were saving us." That sentence shattered something in me and rebuilt something else. He clapped a hand on my shoulder. "I'm proud of you. In a different way now. Maybe even more." That meant more than any scholarship letter ever could. But life wasn't done testing me. A few weeks later, the exchange program coordinator emailed again. They had reviewed my new writing accomplishments, saw my published work, and said, "We're offering a special creative arts scholarship for young writers. Your profile fits. If you're still interested, we'd like to consider you." I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes. A second chance? A different path, not through grades, but through storytelling? I didn't know what to feel. Excitement? Fear? Guilt? I had already made my choice, hadn't I? That night, I sat on the roof and watched the city lights blink like fireflies. Anna came up and sat next to me. "Are you leaving now?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," I said. She didn't cry. She didn't beg. She just said, "If you go, it's okay. You already stayed when we needed you most." And in that moment I realized something. Maybe staying wasn't forever. Maybe it was just what I needed to do then. And maybe now it was okay to dream again. 2 weeks. That's how long I had to make a decision. The scholarship offer was real. A creative writing program in a European university. Full tuition. Housing. Travel covered. A path I never expected, but now it was standing in front of me again. Only this time, I wasn't the same person who once cried over a letter at the kitchen table. I talked to my mom first. We were folding laundry together. Something simple, something real. I told her everything. That the scholarship offer had come back. That I didn't know what to do. That I was scared. She folded a towel and looked at me carefully. "I don't want to lose you," she said. "But I also don't want to hold you back." "You're not," I replied. "I stayed because I wanted to. Because I needed to." She smiled, tired and proud. "You've already done more for us than we ever expected. If this is your next step, go." My dad called that night. He didn't say much at first. Just listened. When I finished explaining, he paused for a while. Then he said, "You made your choice once. You chose us. Now let us choose you." That's when I knew. It wasn't abandonment. It was evolution. Anna was the last person I talked to. She sat at the edge of my bed, hugging her notebook. "Will you still write me stories from there?" she asked. "Every week," I promised. She thought about it for a second, then nodded. "You're still my hero," she said. That broke me. The next morning, I accepted the scholarship. Not because I wanted to run away, but because I had built something strong enough at home to carry on without me. I wasn't leaving them behind. I was carrying them with me. Departure day felt surreal. I had one suitcase, one backpack, and 100 emotions I didn't know how to name. Tarek showed up at the airport. He handed me a notebook. "In case you run out of things to say," he joked. I smiled. "That's not gonna happen." Ms. Lambert sent me an email that morning. Some stories begin with leaving home, but the most powerful ones always come back to where they started. She was right. As I sat on the plane, looking out at the clouds, I didn't feel like the boy who had failed on purpose. I felt like the boy who had chosen on purpose. I had chosen love. Then I had chosen growth. And both were valid. Both were necessary. It's been a year now. I'm still writing, more than ever. Short stories, essays, even the beginnings of a novel. My column back home is still running. Anna sends me drawings with every email. My mom updates me on the little things, what she cooked, how the flowers are blooming, how Whiskers keeps knocking over the lamp. My dad, he still doesn't say much. But last week, he mailed me a printed copy of my latest story. He had highlighted one line and scribbled next to it in blue pen. "You stayed when we needed you. Now go change the world." So I am. Not because I'm escaping, but because I finally believe I can do both. I can honor where I came from and still build something new. I can leave without losing them. I can grow without forgetting. Because some stories don't end with goodbyes. They begin with one.